So the orphan outreach ministry at NewLife began after my husband Cameron and I started to research international adoption for our family. And as we looked at the plight of the orphan and institutionalized care for children around the world, our hearts were just broken in a way they never had been before. And God began to lay on my heart that the plans that He had for our lives were much larger than us bringing our child home. And I prayed and researched and decided to speak to Pastor Brandon and talk to him about what we felt. So we met with him and poured our hearts out to him and let him know exactly where God was leading us. And after prayer, he agreed that an orphan ministry was a direction in which NewLife should go. So we began focusing on our local outreach and future international outreach. And through a lot of prayer and consideration and research, we decided on Haiti as our location where we would begin our ministry.
So for many years, I felt led to travel and serve internationally to those who the Bible describes as the least of these or the marginalized. And for many years, I suppressed those feelings that God had sort of put in my heart. I said things to myself and to God like, I'm already playing in the worship team at church. I lead a small group. I read my Bible. I go to church weekly. In other words, I was basically checking off my Christian checklist that I was doing. Not long ago, I was sitting here at NewLife, and it's just an ordinary Sunday like any other Sunday. And God really hit me in a way that I had never been hit before. Basically telling me, reminding me of what He said in Luke 12:48, that to whom much is given, much is required. And on that particular Sunday, they were talking about the ministry that we have in Haiti, and I just said to myself, and I said to God, I'm not going to keep running from what I feel You called me to do for many years now. I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to step out on faith. And so, long story short, I started going to the meetings and got connected with Brandy and the team that was going, and I went.
About 2 or 3 weeks before we went to Haiti, our group was sitting around one night, and one of the pastors that was with us stood up and he said, I want everyone to tell me, why are you going to Haiti and what you hope to accomplish? So I sat there and I listened to Brandy say how she was hoping to start an orphan ministry and to help the people. I heard other people talk about how God had called them to Haiti. And I heard even how one young lady wanted to go into the mission field. So when they got to me, I just looked up and said, I don't know. God has put on my heart to go, and He will let me know when I get there. So we planned our trip, and I remember as I got out of the airport, and when we got into the bus and started to where we were staying, I was just overwhelmed. There was so much poverty there. There was so much trash on the streets. It was the heat. All I could see was people living in anything they could find. And all I could do was say, God, why? Why? I just could not understand how I had been so blessed and these people were struggling. That whole night, all I could get on, I could not get anything off my mind. It was just too much for me. I was just overwhelmed.
We were fortunate enough to be linked with Pastor Renee Joseph and Loving Hands Ministry, which is already very established in Haiti, and are able to stay at his home when we're in country with groups. And it's such an environment where God is constantly surrounding the groups where we are, and I just feel incredibly blessed to be a part of it. The first trip that we took as a group to Haiti, there were no children at Grace Orphanage. It was just a shell at that point in time. It was an incomplete building that we spent a lot of time doing manual labor on, and I really looked forward to the day that we would return and there would be children there. So trip 2, which was 6 months later, this past February in 2014, 30 children were at Grace when we arrived, and it was a wonderful sight to pull up on their smiling faces. They were actually singing for us when we got there, and it was more than my heart could even have imagined. And I try my best each and every time that we're there to love on each and every one of those 30 children, to show them the love of Jesus Christ like He has shown me. People will say, in Haiti, there are 500,000 orphans, and there is no way that you'll make an impact on all of them. And that may be true, but I know without a doubt that we impact those 30 each time we're there, that they are ours that God gave us to care for, that we'll love on the ones that come in the future, and we'll love on the children that are in every orphanage that Pastor Renee opens that NewLife is able to be a part of. And through that, we are changing their lives. And I'm just hopeful that as a church, we decide that we want to really make this a priority in our lives. Not as NewLife, as the church.
There's one thing I want everyone out there to understand. You're never too old to take part in something like this. I was 56 when I made my first trip to Haiti, and it will not be my last. In fact, I'm planning on my 3rd trip in about 6 months.
God calls all of us who says that we're followers of Him to move. And that's one of the things that I will continue to do through this ministry, is to continue to move. And that may look different from year to year, but one thing I know I can't do is just sit back and watch. And I'm challenging you to move as well.
And I ask you, if nothing else, that you'll really pray for these kids, and that you'll pray for this ministry, and that you'll truly ask God if He would have you be a part of this, if He would have you to help, and if so, in what way, because it's all for Him.